Top 5 impact players for the Dogs. Will it be enough? What and who will have the biggest impact on UGA football in 2026? Welcome back, everyone, to Big Luke's Dog Beat, and we have with us one of our favorite Big Luke UGA insiders, Chase Ruffo. Chase, how are you doing?
Big Luke, I'm doing great. Excited to talk about the Dogs.
We were with Chase and Rosie in the Keys back in March before G-Day, and a lot has happened, Chase, since then. Anything that
Yeah,
stands out in your mind?
I think we've got a team who's been working hard in the spring. We had a good G Day, I think, and the big takeaway from that for me was we look really good on the defensive side of the ball, and I really hope Gunnar Stockton does not get hurt this year, were my big two takeaways.
Absolutely. I know everybody is kind of wringing their hands on the 2027 class about not having as many 5 stars, but I think those days are gone. I don't think Kirby or the Georgia program is going to load up on high-priced 5 stars. They're going to go out and get more fundamental players. But 2 5 stars we did get is Keemon Spell and Jackson Dollar. Keemon Spell, one of the top running backs in the nation, and Jackson Dollar, another great 5 star tight end coming in 2027.
Yeah, I'm really excited about these guys. We've always had a really strong running back room at Georgia. I think it's been a while since we have had an absolute blowout 5 star coming back as a running back. I know Frazier was highly touted out of California, but from everything I've read about Keemon Spell, they think he is extremely legit and is probably the best back that we've signed, probably since DeAndre Swift, from what I've read about him.
So we'll all hold our breath all during recruiting season next year to make sure someone doesn't flip him with a lot of money. But I think he's pretty solid in the Georgia column as of right now. And also we signed a 3 star quarterback, a name that most of y'all will be familiar with, Colton Nussmeier. His brother was the quarterback at LSU. Didn't really pan out, but comes from a long standing Texas football tradition. So we'll see what Colton does for us.
Yeah, and I believe he's a lefty, so that would be a little bit different. I can't remember the last time we had a left-handed quarterback start at Georgia. But yeah, obviously he has the pedigree. He had a good first couple years. I believe he got hurt this past year, which may have hurt some of his rankings. But from what I've read about him, he seems to be a really good pocket passer and can also extend plays with his legs. So I'm excited to get him on campus eventually.
And again, I just want to point out to all the folks listening to Big Luke, this is a shift in strategy for recruiting where the staff is focusing heavily on development and budget allocation. And that'll probably mean fewer early 5 star commitments compared to the past when Georgia, Alabama, Texas, other teams just loaded up on 5 stars. Well, Texas and Texas A&M seem to still be doing that. I like what Kirby's doing. I hope it pans out. And before we get into the show, how about the Diamond Dogs? Chase, we haven't talked since they made a great run and Daniel Jones winning the Golden Spike Award.
Yeah, they had a really good run and just a fun and exciting season. I was able to kind of catch on towards the end of their regular season and SEC championship run, and really proud of what those guys did. They came up just short, but it seems like Oklahoma was just the team of destiny at the end. They ended up winning the whole thing, and tip your hat to them. But our guys really played hard, and I was really proud to watch them throughout that postseason run.
Yeah, they got hot at the right time, and that's what I want Georgia football to do. I want us to peak right during the playoffs and get hot like that. If you're a Dog fan, please take the time right now to subscribe. It's free. If you like today's content, hit that like button. And we love comments. Chase, we're getting a lot of comments now. We even got a few haters that comment frequently on the show, so we love it. And we are going to do an addition answer some of those comments. But one of the comments that we had was about recruiting. That's why I wanted to address that philosophy earlier. Someone really frustrated that we're not picking up more 5-stars. Chase, we're going to get right into our subject, but let's recognize our sponsors, White and Choate Law Firm in Cartersville, Georgia. White and Choate is a full-service law firm that provides representation to local and national businesses and individual clients throughout North Georgia and Metro Atlanta. They specialize in helping personal injury victims and individuals seeking compensation for work-related accidents. Go see Harry, Jay, or Lottie, who are all damn good dogs for all your legal needs to maximize your opportunity and minimize your risk. Don't wait any longer. Go see White and Choate for your legal needs. Well, let's jump into it. Chase, you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. Who's going to have the biggest impact on GUGA in 2026? And will it be enough knowing that Georgia's goal is to win the national championship and to continue our streak of winning the SEC? So, Chase, let's start with the offense. Who do you see as the most impactful players on the offense this year?
Yeah, I think you can obviously talk about Gunnar Stockton and how important his health is to continue extending plays for us and making plays down the field. But I like to think of these offensive units as just position groups. And I think about the offensive line. Everything starts up front, right? We're returning 4 of 5 starters or players who have had significant playing time throughout the year. And I'm looking at that right guard spot at Zyke Helton, and he's going to be the newcomer that we need to step up and really play well. I feel good about our tackle positions. I feel good about Drew Bobo playing at center. And, we can talk all day long about how we probably don't lose to Ole Miss without the injury of Drew Bobo. But I feel really good about that unit. But I have a big question mark at that right guard spot, and I hope Zyke Helton is ready to go and to step into that role.
Well, I love to listen to other podcasts, and Coach Donnan has a podcast on usually Tuesday nights, UGA Sports Live, and he went on and on and on about Zyke Helton and how he is just going to be a steamroller. But he is a freshman, and picking up the coverages and getting the calls from Bobo to the left of him is going to be important. What else you see on the offense, Chase?
Yeah, I think after the offensive line unit, my mind goes to the wide receiver room. We had just tremendous production from Zachariah Branch last year and some other guys who just really had great years and helped us to score points in tough positions. So I'm looking at Isaiah Canyon, the transfer from Georgia Tech, as being that next breakout wide receiver. Now, he is not the gadget guy, can take the ball and score from anywhere on the field. But I've watched a little bit of his highlights from Tech, and I got to watch him a little bit last year. And he gets open down the field. He just has the ability to get behind the defense. He can make contested catches. He finds his way to the end zone. And he looks like that Colby Branch-esque player who we need on the outside to create opportunities downfield for Gunnar. And I think he's going to be our standout wide receiver this year.
I think you're exactly right. I think replacing that production from Branch, everybody needs to just drop that. We're not going to replace his production with one player or with slot. I do think the short passes that Bobo uses, I don't think they're going away. I think they're going to continue to do them. They're going to use a lot of different personnel for those packages, and they're going to do it to soften up the defense along with that running attack. So I'm like you. I would be shocked if we do not see more down the field passes to Cannon and also Talon Taylor. I think this is going to be his breakout year. I think everybody's going to get over the drop against Alabama, and we're going to see what a 5-star wide receiver really looks like with him.
Yeah, I'm excited for Taylor as well. I think he's going to have a really good year. I'm hopeful this is the year where he puts it all together, and it seems like the staff is really confident in him. We didn't really go to the portal to get a ton of wide receivers, which, we obviously got Canyon from Georgia Tech, but it's not like we replaced the whole room through the portal, which tells me that Kirby and staff feel very confident in Talon Taylor and Sokovie White Helton and some of these other guys who have already been on the team.
Yeah, the only one I'm really disappointed in on the perimeter out there is I was disappointed in C.J. Wiley's performance in G-Day. I was disappointed in his body language, how he kept his head down. He was looking around every time, why wasn't the ball thrown to me? So, yeah, I'd be
Yeah.
interested. I think he's a talented receiver, but I'll be interested to see them. Well, let's jump into that tight end room very quickly. Who are you looking for just to bust through on that tight end room?
Well, if G-Day is any indication, Jaden Riddell is going to be that guy this year. Didn't get a ton of playing time last year. Obviously, we always have a stacked tight end room, and Lawson Lucky had a really strong year along with Oscar Delp. But this guy, Jaden Riddell, has given me shades of Brock Bowers. I mean, he looks like an off-brand, generic Brock Bowers to me. And I mean that in just the best way ever because Brock Bowers is one of the best tight ends to ever play college football. He's probably going to be an outstanding tight end in the NFL for a long, long time. But Jaden Riddell seems like the guy who's got a tight end body, but the speed of a wide receiver and great ball skills. He looks like that breakout tight end to me.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. And I think we're going to see that 12, 13 personnel all the time that Rosie loves so much. We're going to see it, and we're going to see the Riddells, even the freshmen, Prothrow. You're going to
Yeah.
see those big bodies that can run flanked out as receivers, and it's going to look like 10 and 11 personnel, but it's going to be our tight end package. So, real excited. So, offense, Zyke Helton, pay attention to that. Everybody else on the offensive line is solid. Pay attention to Isaiah Canyon, and then also pay attention to Jaden Riddell at that tight end slot. Those are some of the impact. And Lord help us. Do not. I hope the two Ryans get some reps those first two games because I was not impressed with them at G-Day.
I wasn't either, and I don't like to, pile onto them because I know they're good players and they have a bright future ahead of them. But they did not really instill confidence that if Gunnar Stockton goes down, that this team has any chance to reach their goals this year. I felt like with Gunnar in, the 2024 season, when Carson went down, he at least came in and looked like he was ready to go and had a component of the game that we didn't have already, and that's with his legs. And I think the Ryans look like they still have a lot of development to do, and they don't seem to have that other component to their game in terms of running the football that could give them an added element that could compensate for a lack of experience. So I hope Gunner stays healthy. I hope Kirby pounds it into his head to slide and to get down. And, I just hope he stays healthy this year.
Well, and I think the first two games, and even the game on the road to Arkansas, we can get the Ryans some reps
Yeah.
in live games with the ones or the twos and see if they can develop and learn the system. But I'm like you, I don't see it right now. But well, let's just say Gunner's not going to get hurt, and we'll move on
Yeah.
from there.
I'm curious, Luke, what do you think are the next steps for Gunner to really become an elite quarterback?
I think the whole nonsense about average depth of target, that's all you hear now. It's almost like they're looking for the 21st thing on the list to say Gunner's not going to make it. If you look at all the magazines that are out, the Lindy's, the Phil Steele, all the magazines, they're talking about average depth of target, how Gunner needs to throw the ball downfield more. Throw the ball downfield if it's there. I saw enough throws from Gunnar Stockton last year to know he can make the NFL throws. He can make the deep out. He can make the deep, the seam pass. It's like everybody forgot about that throw he made to Humphreys at the Tennessee game to win the. I mean, those are NFL throws, and the throws he made it against Ole Miss during that game when we couldn't stop Trinidad Chambliss. So I think that average depth of target, probably the biggest thing I want to see as improvement is the 1, 2, 3 read. That I can make that third read without tucking the ball down and running. So I'm back there, I look 1, 2, and then I hit that third read. I would love to see more from Gunnar.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It seems like I listen to some of the same Georgia insiders and podcasts that you listen to, and it seems like zone coverage has given Gunnar a lot more problems and just kind of being willing to pull the trigger over the middle. So I'm interested to see how Bobo has worked with him in the offseason to help him get more comfortable with those throws. And I'm sure having that loaded tight end group as a safety blanket should hopefully help him going forward. But
And then
I have full confidence in him this year. He has everything that we can need to win a national championship, no doubt.
I agree. 1,000%. Again, I think the whole average depth of target, cutting loose, I think he has that. Zone coverage, especially with the way the linebackers can drop back now, is tricky. That's that first, second, third read. So I think he will get there, and I think it'll work out great. All right, Chase, let's go into the defensive side of the ball. Who do you see as key players, key formations, and techniques that you like on that defensive side?
Yeah, before we start there, I did want to bring some attention to another weapon that I think this team has, and that's Peyton Woodring. He has had
Absolutely.
3 years as the starter for Georgia, and I looked a little bit into his stats. He is 88% with a long of 55, has never missed an extra point. And some of those stats are a little misleading because he missed 4 kicks his freshman year and has only missed 2 the previous 2 years. So Kirby Smart is an incredible recruiter. And the past 10 years, our kickers at Georgia have been Rodrigo Blankenship, Jack Podlesny, and now Peyton Woodring, who has become as reliable as you can get as a college kicker. So I'm excited to see what he does this year, but he brings me a whole lot of confidence. And I know he brings that staff a ton of confidence too.
Oh, absolutely. He's just automatic within 50 yards. The punter, I think I'm holding my breath a little bit for the punting situation. We've been so spoiled with the punting we've had for the last couple of years. But yeah, Peyton Woodring will be a weapon for us. Exactly right. All right,
All right,
you ready to go to that defense?
let's do it.
All right. Well, who do you see as the key players on defense? And I think you're like me. I think this is an elite defensive squad this year.
I think we're going to be really, really strong on defense this year. And I know that's easy to say with a Kirby Smart, Glenn Schumann coached group. But let's be honest, last year left a lot to be desired in terms of the pass rush and just extra yards in general. And we finally buckled down towards the end of the year and started to figure things out. But I think we're going to make big strides this year. So starting with defensive line, I think you have to look at Elijah Griffin. He's coming in with his second year on the D line and the interior defensive line. We really need that plug in the center of the defense to be disruptive and to allow these linebackers and the rest of this defensive front to make plays. So he is my key player on this defensive line that needs to step up for this incoming year.
Oh, absolutely. I think he is going to be the key in not just on certain downs. I think that's what we're missing on our defensive line. We're missing that defensive linemen that can be impact on all of the downs, not just on a pass rush, not just on run play. So I think you're exactly right. Elijah Griffin is the difference maker. Who else you see?
At the linebacker spot, I look at Chris Cole. I mean, he's got to be that guy who gets to the quarterback and finishes plays for us. It seems like the staff has a ton of confidence in him. He played a lot last year and looked great, but did have trouble finishing plays. I felt like he got to the quarterback a lot, but struggled to really finish the play. And so I'm looking at him as being that standout, rushing the passer type of player, disruptive player coming from the linebacker position.
I think you're right. I love Chris Cole. I think what's going to be the key is Raylan Wilson, Chris Cole, all that experience on the outside. Can't forget Q. I think he's going to take Quintavious Johnson's going to take a huge step forward. I know we lost the kid from Auburn, Williams, but we've got several players that can step up and make that difference. We've just got to be stout, and I have no doubt that if some of these linebackers and defensive linemen take the step forward, they got a lot of reps last year. These young guys got a lot of reps. I think they can be an elite front seven. And I think with the cornerbacks that we've got, with both of the cornerbacks, Robinson and the other cornerback, DeMello Jones, they're going to be able to play up. We're going to have enough confidence for them to play up and play two high safeties. So we'll be able to get the key is getting pressure without having to commit more than 4 or 5 pass rushers. That's going to be the whole key, especially against the teams like Alabama and Ole Miss.
Totally agree. To me, this feels like it could be the best defense we've had since the 2022 national championship team. You mentioned DeMello Jones and Ellis Robinson. I think for me, looking at the guys in the back end, I mean, KJ Bolden is about as sure as you can get as a free
Absolutely.
safety. Yeah, I feel great about him. It's going to be the other safeties back there. We've got the transfer from Clemson, Khalil Barnes, who has a ton of playing experience. So I expect that he can step up and play well for us. And then I believe it's Jamari Riddle is the ECU transfer who will be playing some strong safety. I think he's the big question mark is who can fill in the strong safety spot to really help those guys at the corner position and to help KJ to not have to do everything. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on the safety group.
Yeah, and I think you're exactly right. That star position is going to be critical. I think he's going to take the step up. Dinkins for us, who saw a lot of playing time at the end of the year. Damari Riddle, I'm not sure he's going to still be on the team, Chase, after he had his incident down there close
Oh,
to
that's
you in
right.
Savannah. The kid from Clemson is Cahill Barnes out of North Dakota. I think he's got to step up for us because let's face it, the good offenses, if when we see Ole Miss, when we see Alabama, and I don't know how good Alabama is going to be, but when we see the better offenses in the league and the better coaching, they're going to find that one weak spot and they're going to attack it. So we cannot have 3 stellar defensive backs and one who's weak. They'll find that one weak spot. I think you've hit it head on. That's going to be the critical piece. I think the kid from Clemson, Cahill Barnes, could be a huge impact player if he plays just above average. And I think Deshaun Dinkins is going to be a hammer at star. I think he's going to be a hammer. So
Yeah. Yeah. I feel about as good, I think, as you can possibly feel about a defense outside of, our super teams that won the national titles. This to me feels like it has the right pieces to really be dominant this year.
I agree. I could come close to the 2021 defense and be that type of force. Well, let's take a quick look at the schedule. Chase, give me one or two games that scare you on that schedule or you're looking forward to.
I think the first one that stands out to me is going to be at home versus Oklahoma.
Absolutely.
I think they're going to be good this year. They have Mateer coming back. Obviously, Venables is a strong defensive coach. I know that game's at home, but that's going to be a battle. That's going to be a tricky game. And then you look at Ole Miss. I think playing Trinidad on the road, you know, hard for me to believe they're going to be as good as they were this past season. I have serious question marks about their head coach, Pete Golding, being a real head coach for a full season. We'll see how that plays out. But man, he's got a great quarterback, and that makes things a whole lot easier. So that's going to be a tricky game. And then I look at the Florida game, playing in Mercedes-Benz with a new head coach and Buster Faulkner as their offensive coordinator. I think that could be a potential tricky game. And maybe that's the Larry Munson in me, but that's going to be one that just feels like a weird game to me. But if I had to say the game that I feel the most worried about, it's probably at Ole Miss.
If we can get through Oklahoma, I think we'll have the momentum to run the table. I'm like you. Let's face it, Lane Kiffin made Trinidad champions. I know he had a great playoff after Lane left, but he calling those plays and all the stuff he did made Trinidad Chambliss one of the best quarterbacks. I don't see that on the Ole Miss staff. And again, I think Florida is a couple of years away, but I think with Philo there and with Buster Faulkner, they're going to be ready for Georgia. So I think you've got some good picks there. Well, Chase, I want to tell you how much I appreciate you being with us, and you're going to be a regular contributor to the Big Luke's Dog Beat all during the year. And I know you've got exciting news and an upcoming birth in your family, so we wish you all of Godspeed and the best of luck.
Well, thank you, Luke. It's a pleasure to be on with you, and I look forward to being on in the future.
That is great. And if you're a Dogs fan, please subscribe. It's free. If you like today's content, hit that like button. And we love all the comments and any ideas for future shows. And as always,
Go Dogs.
Dogs. Thank you, Chase.
My pleasure, Luke.